You know, when I thought about making a video on a Transformers series, the first series I thought I would have talked about was Transformers Cybertron, one of the anime series from that Unicron trilogy, mainly because that was a series I grew up on. I still have some of the toys today, missing a lot of parts, including the Cyber Keys, which are apparently called Force Chips in Japan. Though stuff like that's not shocking, because small stuff like this tends to get lost with childhood toys. It's weird, but regardless, that Transformers series is for the future. Like a lot of shit from my childhood that I want to cover, fucking hell. Though this series is special because this was one of the first animated series to use CGI, with the cartoon Reboot beating the show by only like 2 years. Well, I say that, but both series were animated by Mainframe Entertainment, now rebranded as Mainframe Studios, with them requiring Federator Networks. Their first step into CGI animation wasn't Reboot, but this music video for a band called Dire Straits and their song, Money for Nothing. And yeah, the CG parts are definitely early CGI. I mean, they did get better when making Reboot, but things here aren't any better in terms of animation, at least for season 1. Though, funnily enough, they did trash the Money for Nothing music video in an episode of Reboot. Now, story-wise, it's a different, story. I do think this has some pretty good writing, and the first 2 episodes actually got me into the show. So much so that I actually decided to make this video. I don't think it's talked about that much nowadays, mainly because of the whole animal transformations being the primary transformation. That and beast machines, but that's unfortunately for later. F my life. Okay, it sounded like animals weren't used in Transformers. Grimlock and like 2 other Dino Transformers are characters in G1, and they were brought back for Transformers Animated. At least just Grimlock, not sure about the other 2, mainly because I'm drawing a blank with their names, along with another character first introduced here actually called Black Arachnia. And in Transformers Cybertron, there was a whole planet dedicated to animal transformers, that being Jungle Planet, or Animatros in Japan. Now, I could be horribly wrong on that front with how much the show is actually talked about. Now, I only say this because I'm just a casual fan of Transformers. I don't really keep up with the series that much as others. Hell, I just learned about the Netflix series, which did have the Autobots and Decepticons time travel to the future to meet their descendants. And lore issues and voice actors aside, that's about all I know about current Transformers stuff. I mean, the last big Transformers thing I've watched was the first Michael Bay movie. It wasn't bad in my opinion, but that will get you up to speed on my knowledge on Transformers stuff. Though, is this still something I can recommend in the modern day? Well, yeah, kind of. It has some pretty good episodes. But let's see why I say that with my review of Beast Wars Transformers. Or Beasties Transformers if you're Canadian. And no, that's not a joke. Why? Why was it called that? Fucking hell. Roll intro. Flying through outer space, we see a fight between the Maximals and the Predacons. The target of the Maximals is Megatron. No, not that Megatron, a new Megatron, and he's stolen a golden disc. The both ships end up going through time and lands on a mysterious planet. Now, there's an issue though, because this planet is actually filled with an unstable amount of energon, an energy source used by the Transformers, and because of this, they can't be outside for a long time. To combat this, both sides scans the area for life forms so they can copy them to make new beast forms. With this, they don't have to worry about the energon, but said energon is Megatron's goal. Though with the state of things, one particular Predacon named Dinobot has an issue with Megatron, challenging him for the lead, though that leads him to being, well, almost killed. Over with the Maximals, they get used to their new bodies, so Cheetor decides to test how fast he can run, which gets him into trouble because he runs into the Predacons. The rest of the Maximals show up and have a quick little brawl until the Maximals can actually get Cheetor out of there. On the trip home, they come across Dinobot, who wants to challenge the leader of the Maximals, Optimus Primal, for leadership. even changing his transformation phrase. They duel for a bit until Megatron tries to snipe them both, but thanks to a missed shot, both sides find a giant deposit of Energon. Now, since that's his goal, Megatron heads straight towards it. Optimus gives Dinobot a chance to help, and he becomes an official member of the Maximals. Then they just fight the Predacons until Megatron causes the Energon to explode. Now, for the moment, it's a stalemate, but this marks the start of the Beast Wars. Both sides will come across weird alien constructions, but more importantly, protoforms. Transformers yet to be, well, more specifically, Maximals yet to be. I don't think I have the right phrasing, but pretty much for the Maximals, they gain Tigertron and Air Razor as allies, but the Predacons gain Black Arachnia to their side. Now, as I already said, things on this planet isn't really as they seem, with all these strange alien landmarks like this weird version of Stonehenge, and apparently one of the moons is actually hollow. Weird, yeah, I know. But more importantly, there's this weird little island floating around that is pretty much a super weapon that will be ready for the Squid Games. Now, eventually, we get to meet the person who actually created this weird alien planet, and that's Unicron. Well, not really. This is an alien known as a Vox. It just took the appearance of Unicron because I don't really know, nor do I care. I mean, it's stated in the episode, but again, I just don't care. It's just so fucking weird that it was Unicron that it decided to take the form of. This planet was a sort of an experiment, but thanks to the Transformers, it decides, in its own words, sterilize the project. Now, in order to save the planet, they need to destroy the alien ship. Thankfully, a Predacon named Tarantulas was fixing up a stasis pod to use as a spaceship, and through betrayal and shit, it ends up in Maximal hands. And Optimus uses it to destroy the ship, but he unfortunately goes down with it, thanks to Megatron locking the doors to the stasis pod. The day is saved, though obviously it's not the happiest of occasions. On the bright side, some of the Maximals and Predacons got upgrades from the explosion, and this, my friends, is Transmetal, a new type of metal that just again gives an upgrade. Hell, maybe if we gave them the Quasar Sabers, they can actually morph. Hey, don't look at me like that, the Morphers are called the Transmorphers. Regardless, the leader of the Maximals is dead, so Megatron goes on the attack, but Rhinox has an idea, and he has to be connected to the Matrix. During this time, Megatron gets two new Predacons, that being Quickstrike and Silverbolt, but Rhinox's plan works, and Optimus now lives with the power of Transmetal. They get Quicksilver on the Maximal side because of his noble heart, and the true nature of the planet is revealed. Shooting the Vox, however the fuck it's pronounced, and spelled, mind you, because I have both VOX and VOK in this fucking script, thing and this and the fucking foot. Oh yeah, that fucking alien never shows up again outside of two times in the rest of the fucking series. Oh, what the hell, though? In actuality, that's because the writers decided to go for a time travel plot. Yeah, this is something I will knock the show for, because they were kind of hyping up the fucking alien planet experiment thing with a finale to the first season, but they just fucking stopped. I mean, it's probably because they got the okay to do the time travel stuff, but I would have rather this just being a random planet that the Transformers landed on, and not Earth itself. But you may be asking, what do I mean about time travel? Well, the data on the Golden Disc has an interesting origin. The Predacon Council in the future sends a Predacon named Ravage back in time. Ravage is actually a Decepticon rebuilt into a Predacon, and he helps the Maximals bring in Megatron thanks to a treaty that the Maximals and Predacons made. Though things aren't really good between both sides, since the Predacon Council made sure to block the signal of the explosion caused by Optimus that, could have rescued them. When they get Megatron in cuffs, Ravage interrogates him, and Megatron shows off a message that the original Megatron hid in the Golden Disc. Ravage teams up with this Megatron, and we see his true goal. The Golden Disc reveals that this is actually Earth, way before humans got to the point where they are now. But more importantly, before the original war between the Autobots and Decepticons even happened. He is able to make his way to the Ark, the ship of the Autobots, and kills Optimus Prime. This causes a time tornado, and time itself is about to go the way it should have in Power Rangers Dino Charge. Is it obvious I'm a fan of Power Rangers? But regardless, the Maximals are able to stabilize the time stream only for a brief moment. They need to revive Prime, but that will require taking his spark, his soul essentially, out of his body and storing it in something temporarily. The only option they have is Primal, and he does just that, and in the end they revive Prime and stabilize the time stream. Though they have to stay at the Ark to guard it because this is Megatron's target. During this time, a new Maximal comes into the fray, that being Death Charge. Though he's not there to help out the team, no. He's there to take out a Predacon named Rampage. Rampage was an experiment that the Maximals created, a protoform that has a near immortal spark. It really wasn't a good experiment, so Primal's team was tasked with tossing it somewhere where it would never be found again. Though thanks to them having to help out with Megatron, that really wouldn't happen, and Megatron got his hands on Rampage, forcing him to join the Predacons. Depth Charge does help the team somewhat in the end, but his main goal is to take out Rampage, which he does do at the cost of his own life, though at the same time Megatron finds the Nemesis, the Decepticon ship that shot down the Ark. And while he heads towards the Ark, though thanks to the help of a new Maximal named Tigerhawk, the Nemesis goes down and Megatron is arrested and hauled back through time in the dumbest way possible, which I can pin that technological purity that we'll see in Beast Machines on Primal. Jokes that really aren't jokes at all aside, I do like the story, but I have a giant issue with the jump to the time travel because the first season was focused only on this being an undiscovered planet. It wasn't until season 2, episode 9, Code of Hero, where this was confirmed to be Earth. I think my issue is that this became somewhat rushed, I guess you could say. I mean, I guess the explosion at the end of season 1 landed them on Earth in the past, but they really don't move from where they are, like, geographically, I think that's the right term. And the continents aren't combined into Pangea, though I'm more shocked that I remember Pangea. I mean, you're talking to the guy who's bored to death by geography. I guess they didn't have the okay to go with a time travel ship during pre-production of the series, and which for fans of the original 80s Transformers, they probably got the biggest smile ever from seeing this. But for someone like me who's a late 90s and 2000s kid, this wasn't something to get excited for at all. In fact, it feels somewhat tacked on, doubly so for the ending, since Predacon Megatron nabbed the spark of G1 Megatron, that I'll just call G1tron for the sake of clarity. And if this fucker died, then that's 2 sparks going to the Matrix, and, well...
Snake, what have you done? You changed the future! You've created a time paradox!
Though, that's more important for the end, because they just drag him back to the future, and it's like, you know there's no future unless you put G1tron spark back in his fucking body? This is why I wish this was just a planet made by these Vox aliens. I think that would have been better, since they really only appeared like 2 more times in the show after season 1. That being when they killed Tigertron and Airazor, and when they fused the two together in that Tigerhawk Maximal I mentioned before. They actually made that Maximal to actually attack Megatron for him trying to fuck with the future, not knowing that they'll fuck over time even more because G1tron spark is still in him. And apparently, they don't care. I think these things would have been good for like an ongoing force that like messes with Beast Wars and not something that just does something from time to time. And by time to time, I mean literally only twice. That's really my only issue with them doing the time travel stuff. That, and I don't think they had time to flesh that out, since it was only the 2nd season when this planet became Earth. And this and the next season only had like 12 episodes to the first season's 26. Like, I'm not opposed to the change, but again, it just didn't have time to cook. For individual episodes are really good. Season 2, episode 8, Bad Spark, is a fantastic episode. And this is where we get the backstory to Rampage, where Maximal scientists studied the immortal spark of Starscream, yes, that Starscream, to try and make a near indestructible Maximal. And yeah, his stasis pod during the Beast Wars landed on Earth, and the Maximals did get to it first, but the dude is dead. Though thanks to the Predacons, a Energon surge happens and makes this tornado, sending the Transformers in different directions and reviving Rampage. This episode has some interesting shots, especially seeing Tarantula's body just ripped apart. Like, these fuckers can be rebuilt, but he's in something called a stasis lock, and without help, he's pretty much dead. Rampage not talking throughout a lot of this episode adds to the atmosphere a lot, because, he doesn't talk that much, he mainly just grunts during the episode. That and the end, where Megatron just fucking slices a part of Rampage's spark right out of him, is somewhat imposing, especially since he keeps Rampage's spark in this weird cage that can hurt him whenever it's crushed. and Megatron can just straight up kill him whenever. It's a nice, darker episode that does deserve a watch. I think the only episodes I could have done without in the series is Season 2, Episode 10, Transmutate, and Season 1, Episode 21, Procession. For Transmutate, pretty much a stasis pod is discovered with this thing inside of it. It doesn't have a name until Rampage calls it Transmutate. He tries to protect it until Inferno catches him. Megatron contacts him and forces Transmutate to actually attack the Maximals. It goes as well as you could think it goes, since it can't transform or really move that well. Seriously, the head movement reminds me of the Griffin and Unicorn Zorns from Mighty Morphin Season 2. Well, regardless, in the end, the thing is destroyed. A fantastic tale, if I do say so myself, and if my shitty tone controlled fooled you, yeah, this episode was boring. It goes to show Rampage's want for freedom because of his desire to protect Transmutate so it doesn't get into Megatron's hands, but I just felt nothing, just like when Jabby was killed off. Yes, I have that tabbed, and apparently she's still alive, but hey, I'll cross that road again if I decide to watch another Garo season. It's an episode that wanted me to feel something, but I was just incapable of feeling anything when it came down to Transmutate. For that Possession episode, the original G1 Starscream returns, and as I already mentioned, his spark is immortal, which it raises a whole bunch of questions on the whole time travel front, but he ends up possessing Waspinator, which on a petty front probably would have made more sense if he took over Pterosaur, since he's pretty much Starscream 2.0, but regardless, he helps the Predacons and tries to overthrow Megatron, and that's really it. I mean, he does take Black Arachnia under his ring, but she betrays him since she's also Backstabber. And thanks to some Energon crystals, Starscream is exorcised from Waspinator. Probably would have been easier to deactivate the tower if you ask me, but this was just a boring episode. Unless you grew up with the original Transformers series, and then yeah, I don't think this episode would work for you. Though I could be wrong. Oy. Now, in terms of characters, well, to shit on the show a little while longer, like, all the Predacons except for Rampage are fucking boring. So much so that I was like halfway through Season 3 and I was trying to figure out where Scorponok and Pterosaur were. But when I looked it up, I was surprised to find out that they fucking died. Like, I don't get how I missed that. It happened like in the very first episode of Season 2, like 6 minutes in, mind you. It's not like it happened towards the end of the episode or ends credit thing. No, it just fucking happened 6 minutes in. Fucking hell. That was when some of the characters digivolved into those trans-metal forms. Just goes to show how useless they were. Sorry to any fans of Scorponok or Pterosaur, they were just boring. Along with like the rest of the villains, and that's a disappointment because there was more potential with characters like Tarantulas. Like, this dude was a sneaky motherfucker hiding stuff from Megatron, linking Black Arachnia to himself for a brief moment of time, and had some tricks up his non-existent sleeve. The sneakiness makes a hell of a lot of sense because he is a double agent for the Predacon High Console thing, but once Ravage joins the Preds, he just becomes a background character, nothing more, nothing less. I mean, these guys got personality to them, but they're just boring, just f***ing boring. I'm not asking them to be like fully fleshed out or anything, but just to reference Power Rangers again, just not Squat and Babu. Wow, I'm shocked I even remember those two, so you can kind of see why I find these guys boring. I mean, Inferno has a glitch in his system that makes him think that his stasis pod is a colony, and since his beast mode is a fire ant, and Megatron tricks him into thinking that Megatron's the ruler of said colony. Quick Strike is a trigger-happy hotshot, Waspinator is the world's whipping boy, doubly so in beast machines, and Rampage is the most interesting out of the bunch. I kind of wanted to know more about his background, mainly because, again, his protoform was an experiment trying to recreate Starscream Spark. I guess I just wanted to know why the Maximals wanted to create a protoform like this, and what experiments was actually done on him. This Megatron is not my favorite Megatron, but that's more of a bias towards Cybertron. I really like that Megatron as a villain, but this Megatron ain't bad. He kind of reminds me of Lothor from Ninja Storm. Seriously, don't know why I'm referencing Tokusatsu a lot, but unlike him, Megatron's actually competent. Well, except for when it came down to Tarantulas and Black Arachnia, kind of gave him too many chances if you ask me. Though his overall plan was actually pretty smart, since he wanted to find enough Energon to wage a war against Maximals. This is actually because of how Predacons are treated in the modern day, though we don't really see that, kind of like the Faunus and Ruby. It's really only mentioned, not showed, though when he figured out that this was Earth, he went to try and change the course of history, whether that's through wiping out the start of humanity, or again, just going straight for the Autobots. As a villain, he's alright. Could have been worse. He could have been Bokawaspins and Kaiger. Still a decent villain. In terms of Maximals, they're good. The only one I didn't really like is Rat Trap. I found him to be a little more annoying than anything else, to be perfectly honest. I think part of that is just his mouth. He doesn't really shut up, and he's a bit sarcastic, which normally I would like as a naturally sarcastic person, but there's something I just found annoying. The upside is that he is a capable fighter, something that Beast Machines completely forgot about. Literally, at the time of writing, I just watched episode 6 of that show, and wow, seriously, that show so far is just so fucking weird. The Rat did have some good moments, but again, he was just a tad bit too annoying to me. I like Cheetor, but the only thing I didn't care about him is his sudden attraction to Black Arachnia. Yeah, I don't get that. Maybe they're setting something up for a relationship in Beast Machines, but she's already in a relationship with Silverbolt. And I want to say this little crush started at like episode 4 of the 3rd season, maybe slightly hinted at or assumed by Silverbolt. It was just an unneeded part to his character, but hey, I did like this kid. I do love his dynamic with Optimus, with him acting as a sort of father figure to Cheetor from time to time. He does get over his head, but his heart is in the right place, and I do like the kid. A great episode of his was season 3, episode 8, Go With The Flow, where he teaches 2 of these kids different things that would most likely cause a time paradox. Though with the knowledge of what Cheetor teaches them, they can hold their own somewhat against a Predacon. It's a great showing of him, even if the episode isn't solely focused on him. Now for Optimus, this definitely isn't my favorite Optimus, but he was alright, a competent leader and was able to keep the team in line. My favorite moment of his was in the 2nd season where he talks to Silverbolt about his love towards Black Arachnia. I don't know, that talk just feels so real, and his concern for Silverbolt is nice, because let's face it, at this point it did seem like Black Arachnia was just using Silverbolt in Optimus's eyes. Speaking of Silverbolt, he is chivalrous to the point that it fucking hurts. It's more comedic than anything else, and thankfully that's how it's played. He was good, though. The woman he's dating, I think, I could have done without. She wasn't bad, but I was just bored with episodes centering around Black Arachnia. I mean, she played well with Silverbolt, but that's about it for me. My favorite character in the show is Dinobot, and it's funny how his time with the Maximals changed him. An aggressive bot wanting to just take out the Predacons and always butting heads with Rat Trap. Though he does soften up to the point where in the episode where Tigertron temporarily leaves the Beast Wars, instead of like threatening Tigertron to return to the battlefield, he talks to him, which, yeah, normally he wouldn't do. But things change when he gets his hands on one of the golden discs. Seeing that it contains the events of what's to come, he starts doubting if being a part of the Maximals is a good thing. He then rejoins the Predacons for a short amount of time, though, again, it goes to show that, yeah, his time as a Maximal changed him more than just talking to an ally. In his reinitiation trial, when he defeated Quickstrike, Megatron tells Dinobot to kill him. Though obviously he doesn't go through with it, making up an excuse about trading Quickstrike. Dinobot returns the golden disc he took in the previous episode, and Rat Trap catches him in the act. Megatron orders Dinobot to kill Rat Trap, though Dinobot can't go through with it, seeing Rat Trap as an actual comrade. He attacks Megatron and is welcomed back into the Maximals, not without questions of allegiances. So he goes to prove himself, but not without contemplating an end to things. This is where it's revealed that the planet they're on is Earth, a good couple of hundred years before the G1 Transformers take place. Since humans helped out the Autobots in the original war, Megatron goes to destroy the place where humans started life. Dinobot warns the others, but since they'll get there too late, he charges in, destroying the golden disc as well, but not without his spark extinguishing. He died a warrior's death, but I wish he stayed around a little while longer. And I don't really count the new Dinobot that we got at the end. I mean, it was cool that he was a part of the reason why Megatron got arrested in the end, with his memories coming back in a way, but this wasn't really Dinobot to me. This guy is a fantastic character, with a fantastic end to him. The only bland one of the group is Rhinox. He's the tech genius of the group, and outside of him reviving Optimus, the only other thing I can remember is the episode where Air Razor's introduced, mainly for that explanation on Sparks for the audience. Well, it's not really an explanation of Sparks, but just a quick bonding moment between him and Cheetor, and really, that's about it. I mean, I say Rhinox is the only dull Maximal, but Tigertron and Air Razor, well, they were also dull. I mean, Tigertron had this peace mentality to him, which was shown off in a couple of episodes, like the episode where Dinobot just talked to him, but that's really about it. I'm struggling to bring up anything about Air Razor. It didn't help that they weren't really with the main cast of Maximals. These two just did their own thing, probably off somewhere making protoforms, because in the episode where they were just straight up killed, it was showed off that they were dating. The writers bring up something that could have been interesting, but then just killed these fuckers off. I don't even get why. I mean, there was potential with that, but I guess Tigerhawk was a good replacement. He wasn't, both when the Vox guys were in him and when he was just his own guy. I don't know. The only thing I can give him is that he lasted longer than Jabby. You know, even with my bitching in this section, I did actually enjoy the narrative. I still wish they stuck to the new planet plotline that they started out with, but it was a decent ride. It felt a little rushed, probably just to add some more toys for kids to buy. Though, from my understanding, that was actually because they wanted a fourth season. That didn't actually happen, however, and we got the confusing mess that is Beast Machines. Thankfully, though, that's for later. But again, this did have some good moments. You know, I do have to say it. The damn show's animated badly at the start. I mean, yeah, new technology, I know, but I'm really shocked because Reboot seems like it was animated pretty well. I mean, they do get better. In fact, starting from season 2, the animation and camera working is actually really better. Though in terms of character designs, I'm kind of mixed. I mean, the starting beast modes for some of these guys are kind of bad, even for the time, in my opinion. Part of my issue is the lack of like technological stuff sticking out of them, because it kind of looks like the animators were going for a little more realistic designs for the time. I mean, you guys already know my whole reject realism, and I really only mention that because I'm starting to see the seams with Resident Evil 8. But these guys are still robotic, and I don't know, kind of wish we saw more robotic stuff in their beast modes. I don't know. The robot modes, no matter what the form, they actually look great. Though I don't get why Optimus's first form has to rotate his lower half when he transforms. The only downgrade he gets is in the second form with his head. The general structure of the first and third heads is one that I actually love and has actually been ingrained in me since my first time watching Transformers Cybertron. I was actually disappointed that they never brought it back in any future Transformers series, because I don't know, I just think the structure for his head looks great. But the fusion between this and like a gorilla thing in a second form just looks bad in my opinion. Just shit on Rat Trap a little more. I don't like any of his robot designs, and that includes in Beast Machines as well. For here, it's his head. I just don't get it. I mean, I understand them trying to keep the rat design in his robot mode, but I just don't like it. Though I do like his color scheme when he gets his Transmetal form. For Megatron, I wish we got to see his Dragon form a little more. It really looks awesome, but it was introduced at like the last second, which is a disappointment. For Cheetor, I like all of his designs except for his last fucking design. It just looks bad to me. I mean, everyone else is fine, except for some exceptions. Though, transformation-wise, I just don't get Rhinox. I guess I see why it's memed on nowadays, but why? The voices are great, except for Pterosaur. Seriously, I'm glad he got the axe. The voice the actor used got a tap at ear grating, doubly so when he called out the transformation phrase. Now, Optimus's and Megatron's actors, they're great. Especially Megatron's actor, David Kaye. This dude is so great that he can actually voice Megatron in a parody and make it work tenfold.
I may have PTSD, but that is a f***ing maximal.
Now, David and Optimus's actor, Gary Chalk, are perfect for the roles. It's no wonder why they brought them back for the English dubs of the anime. Though Megatron's yes, or something I didn't really like. I mean, it works better in Beast Machines if it was actually used at least once. And speaking of weird, Optimus's Primal Scream thing was just one of the weirdest things I've ever heard in my whole entire life. The actors actually thought they were pretty good. I actually really love Death Charge's actor, David Sobolov. Seriously, the voice he used for him is a voice that I really wish I had in real life. Still though, this voice just makes Death Charge a certified badass from the start. Music-wise, I didn't really remember like 99% of the soundtrack. It was forgettable in my opinion. Though the intro, whoa, the intro is actually awesome. Hyped up on some of the clips they used. So now, taking into account of story, characters, animation, and sound, Beast Wars Transformers gets a 6 out of 10. Again, I enjoyed my ride with the show, but that time travel shit was really the only thing to drag this down. Seriously, that shit didn't have time to breathe, but hey, at least we got Dinobot out of the series. I may have done a lot of bitching in this video, but I do think the show was pretty good. And, well, I don't really have much to say in this final part, which is weird for me, but regardless, at this point in time, Beast Wars is available for legal streaming on this service called Tubi TV. It looks like it's free as long as you have an account with the service, because I can't find any streaming plans. Be warned, however, because the quality is very horrible. The footage I use is from a fan-made upscale, and it's easy to find since it's here on YouTube. It's not a legal streaming option, I mean that's obvious, but it's something I thought I should mention. For alternate recommendations, I guess since in a very technical sense this could be considered an isekai, so I'll go with the only one I actually got into, with that being Rising of the Shield Hero, though I don't really know what else to mention. I guess since this is an animal-robot affair, I guess I'll go with Tokusatsu for this, and to be less predictable, Double Sentai Zyuohja. In Rising of the Shield Hero, we follow Iwatani Naofumi as he gets transported to the MMORPG known as the Kingdom of Melromark as the Shield Hero, along with 3 other gents wielding other weapons. They are the 4 cardinal heroes, but things aren't really cool since Naofumi is accused of one of the worst crimes imaginable and is left to fend for himself on his quest to fend off these waves. That's until he purchases a slave and hatches a bird called a Fitolia that he also turns into a slave. There's a joke there with me being a big Mel Brooks fan. However, with their help, they fight off these waves. It's a pretty good show that gets dragged down by the first arc of the 2nd season. I'm sorry to other Shield Hero fans, everyone has already said it, but I just fell asleep during the Spirit Turtle arc. In Double Sentai Zyuohja, we follow the Zyuohja, a band of 2 humans and 4 Jumans, pretty much if furries were actual anthros, as they fight off the Death Galleon, hunters that came to Earth to hunt the citizens. Armed with their morphers, the Dual Changers, they fight, gain new powers, and learn that the Rhino is always right. Makes a hell of a lot of sense in context, believe you me. This was a pretty good season of Super Sentai, and if the costumes are still intact, I think it would be a pretty good Power Rangers adaptation. So if you thought Beast Wars was pretty decent, then these may catch your attention. And if you excuse me, I gotta go write the Beast Machine script.